Everybody, tonight is the Monday, June 12th meeting of the Lakeville Select Board. We have all members present, myself, Vice Chair Carboni, and Member Fabian this evening. Obviously, we've got Ari Sky, Town Administrator, Todd Hassett, Town Accountant. The Finance Committee will be joining us at 6:15, and let's get right to it. Agenda item number one, a reminder from the Town Clerk that dog license late notices with the late fees have now gone out. The first awareness of those would have, not the late fees, but the renewals for dog licenses would have gone out with the yearly town census. So if you've not gotten the dog licenses renewed by now, you will be seeing a late fee in the mail. Also, a hearty congratulations to all of our 2023 graduates from Pontiac High School, Old Colony Regional Vocational Technical High School, and Bristol County Agricultural High School. I mean, not just did you graduate and moving on to the next stage of your life, I think we would all agree that all these kids went through a tremendous ordeal from 2019 when they first entered school and, you know, having to be sent home, and then they saw half their classmates for a year doing the different cohorts. So, you know, very well-deserved congratulations on getting through that. I can't imagine myself going through that situation, so thank you very much. Job well done. Anybody else have announcements they'd like to share before we move on to Ari?
Nope.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Sky?
Ready for me to write?
Yep.
The town has applied for a one-stop grant that would substantially renovate the Peach Pond at Benny's Neck. Project scope is envisioned to include site improvements, addition of accessible restroom facilities, electrical service, programming space, and a kitchen area. This application was an organization-wide effort that involved the EPC, planning, facilities, and town administrator's office. Award notification is expected in October and November. We've also reached out to our legislative delegation for assistance with the bridge and Main Street intersection. The state funded a traffic study which concluded that a traffic signal is justified. We're now looking for assistance to release funding that was previously approved through a state bond authorization. The Senate's FY24 budget includes earmarks for Betty's Neck and security improvements at the school district, both for $75,000. The budget's currently in conference, so we'll see how that turns out. Plymouth County has approved our application to access ARPA funding to procure a replacement ambulance and associated equipment. This is very good news. Fully executed, the grant will replace the ambulance purchase project, which is scheduled for the FY25 capital plan. We received some unfortunate news at our most recent bi-weekly progress meeting for the Assawamsett Elementary School project. Specifically, the OPM announced a 1-month delay in the delivery schedule for the replacement windows and doors. However, the OPM architect and construction manager have shifted several items to ensure that the project stays on track. So they're still looking at substantial completion on by October 12th. The next regular meeting of the select board will be on Monday, June 26th at the Lakeville Police Station. Thank you.
Thanks. Any questions for Ari?
I have one, Mr. Chair. I think at the last meeting, we said something about the playground, right, at Assawamsett?
You asked a question about the playground, yeah.
Yeah. I think what I forgot to ask was about the stage project. Do we have an update on the stage project? Didn't we have to go, the outdoor stage?
Oh, the outdoor, our outdoor pavilion.
Yeah, our outdoor pavilion.
Oh, sorry, yes, yes. So we awarded, we received a bid that was under budget. We awarded it. There was some question which we discovered after the fact of that there might be, found some as-built that look at the there may be water lines nearby there. So we're having Taunton survey that out. They came last week, said there wasn't anything there, but we have as-built that said they were, so we want them to take another look. Paul Nee's working closely with Joanne Upham on sort of scheduling that all together, and we're trying to get the start date from the contractor. Time's a little tight now because it is June already.
Yeah, I think they start, what, July, the concert?
Yeah. I mean, if we have to work around it, we will. You know, we're not going to leave the place a construction zone during the concert season, so.
Yeah, okay. Okay, thanks.
Did you have it for?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Only question I had, Ari, do we know yet if the delay at Assawamsett is going to impact the budget at all? Or?
It definitely won't impact the budget. Okay. It's just supply chain.
All right.
That's all it is.
Yeah, it's still not back to normal, is it? All right. Thank you, sir. Item number 3, discuss and possible vote to approve the select board minutes of May 22nd, 2023 and May 31st, 2023. Did anybody have any comments on those minutes?
And I'll make a motion to approve the select board minutes of May 22nd, 2023 and May 31st, 2023.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion or good to go? All right. Motion on the floor. Member Carboni?
Aye.
Fabian?
Aye.
Day, aye. Thank you very much. Tracy, thank you for getting those to us so quickly. So we've still got 10 minutes until Finance Committee's meeting was scheduled, so we'll try to move ahead and rip off a few smaller items if that's okay, and then we'll come back. How about, since Todd is with us, do we want to go back to item 7, discuss the Plymouth County Retirement Association Board to accept Chapter 269 of the Acts of 2022?
So, you've seen some back and forth about this the last few days. The legislature passed a special act which allowed retirement boards to, they passed in November, I think, which allows the retirement boards to award a 1-year special COLA of 5%. Normally the limit under statute is 3%. So they gave dispensation for 1 year of 3 or 5%. We had put together an estimate of what we thought the fiscal impact would be. Todd came up with a number about 24,000, I believe. Their actuaries come back with a higher number, although there's some questions, some confusion in the information they've come back to us with, because it says the cost basis for the COLA is 18,000, when in fact it's 16,000. I was told late today, maybe 20 minutes ago, that they meant 18,000, they meant 16,000, it was just a mistitle on the top, but I don't know. The way this works is that first the protocol requires this to be adopted by June 30th. The county has to, the retirement board has to vote for it, then the county commissioners vote for it, and then at least 2/3 of the member select board, well, governing bodies for the member jurisdictions have to vote for it. So we just got this, gosh, Tracy, when did we get this? May 31st, so not very long ago. And we basically were given 30 days to approve it otherwise. So, there's been a lot of talk on the threads among the different town administrators on the side last few days. Some of whom are, they're doing this till June 22nd, June 24th, because they can get it for them before then. And a lot of confusion. The information that came from the county today probably made people more confused. So we're still trying to kind of sort through all that. So I don't think it's an end of the world situation in terms of the amount of the fiscal impact. I think it's either going to be about 24,000, it's going to be 40-something thousand, something like that, on the impact on our assessment. And it is a one-time thing only. I can certainly understand the reason for it. In Massachusetts, local government employees don't get Social Security, so they don't get Social Security COLA. So the only thing retirees are going to get is the COLA from their retirement. And the one last thing to remember is that the kind of misunderstanding a lot of people have is that the 3% increase, if you're earning $50,000 pension, you're not getting 3% of that whole $50,000. You're getting it only on the COLA basis, which in the case of Plymouth County is 16,000. So you're only getting it on, so it'd be about $800, 5% on 16,000. So it's not a huge number individually, but by employee, but it is, but there's some cost to it.
Okay.
Absolutely.
First of all, they voted, the Plymouth County Retirement Board voted on this, April 13th.
Yeah.
And, they sent the letter out, to our community on May 31st, and, they're looking for a vote by June 30th. These last minute things, especially, on a one-time decision, the timeline just really aggravates me.
I agree.
And secondly, the $24,000 becomes, it may be one time, but it's added every
It's
year.
part of permanent
It's
base.
going to become part of it. So for clarification, it's 3% every year anyways, but they want to go up another 2% on this one.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, in theory, if you have a no inflation environment, they could give no increase, but I've never known the retirement board not to give 3%. They always do.
Right.
So is it correct, I hate doing math on the fly here and get myself in trouble, so we'd be looking to shift it instead of 480 in a year to about 800 a year?
Right.
So $320.
Is that what 3% on 16,000 is? Okay, I believe you.
That's right.
Lady, do you have any thoughts on this?
So when I was at the county, again, for the annual meeting a couple of weeks ago, I talked to Tom O'Brien because he said, oh, have you guys talked about this yet? And I said, because I asked him, And he said, yeah, we just sent that email out yesterday. And I said that to him. I'm like, I don't understand why you just sent it out. And that was, I think, when Ari was on conference. So I made sure, and Ari looked for it right away, just to be sure, you know, he knew of it. So I agree with your sentiments, Lorraine. And I even said that to Tom. I'm like, where's the notice here? You know, I did have a brief conversation with Todd earlier, and he and I were also discussing that Social Security, I believe, went up by more than
8.9.
usual. So, you know, it's not just this isolated, you know, in Massachusetts, let's say, that, you know, that wants to do this. I think across the board, we all know what inflation's done, so.
On its face, it's not a crazy number, especially if you consider that it's only on that $16,000 basis. You know, if it was 5%
Across, on the entire amount.
then it would be a pretty big number.
Yeah, yeah, so.
Yeah, I mean, I share the sentiment to get this on May 31st, and then they need a vote by the 30th, and then we're getting confusing information even today, the day of our meeting.
Yep.
I mean, would the members feel comfortable tabling this till the 26th, just to make sure things are well understood, even though it's not a huge number, but just to make sure we don't come back and, I mean, I could go either way.
I mean, I'm not opposed to supporting, you know, this act, because I do believe that, you know, the inflation and our, you know, I advocate for our seniors as best I can, but, I mean, I'm okay waiting for the 26th, but I'm not opposed to supporting this.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not opposed to making a decision on this tonight. And in fact, I hope it's in support of, and I hope that our decision will maybe convince someone else who's out there, because I don't think it's a whole lot of money. And I really do think we should be taking care of the seniors and, you know, so I would make a motion if you want, Mr. Chair.
Yes. Oh, I apologize. Name for the record, please.
I'm a resident, Susan McCusker, I live on Nelsonsville. I am a retiree from Plymouth County Retirement. And you're talking about $320 per retiree for one time. We've already gotten the 3%. This is just 2%. If this is not passed by the end of the month, by the 2/3 of the members of the retirement community, you know, the Retirement Association, it will go nowhere. It's retroactive to last year. It's dead after. But I want you to know that PERIC notified all the retirement boards in the state about this in November of last year. Plymouth County did not act on it until April, and at that time, I think it was because the chairman of our Insurance Advisory Commission in Middleborough called Tom O'Brien and said, what's the story? And we found out they had employment problems and everything. So you got it late, and it is a rush, but we're hoping for your support just the same. It's $300 per retiree, only if you've got a $16,000 retirement, which many don't. The average retirement is in the $30,000 range for the Plymouth County retirement system. So none of us are making $100 off of this. Okay. My chairman for the Middleborough Retirees Group speak regarding this.
Sure, if you'd like to keep it quick, that'd be great. Appreciate it.
Thank you for your consideration on this vote. I just wanted to, Sue did a good job explaining that it didn't get to you in time, unfortunately, and it was a mix-up at Plymouth County Retirement. But as soon as the new director, who was a signature on your letter that you did get, got a hold of it, he took some action and got it to you on the 31st of last month. So he seems to be very responsive, the new guy. Also, on clarification on going forward, the 24,000 or 18,000, that amount is just $320 times the amount of retirees that have over a total calendar year retired, because they don't get it the first year. And that will give that 2% for this year. Now, next year, unfortunately, some of us are gonna be gone, you know, and that depletes as the retired people die, because the next group will not get it. So the highest cost will be the next assessment, which will be in the next 2 to 3 years, whenever Plymouth County does your next assessment. And it'll probably be the 18 to 24,000. Then it'll decrease to zero from there for the next 20 years. So that's the way that works. And basically, what it is there are 23 unit towns in Plymouth County. And out of those 23, we need 16 votes in the affirmative in order to pass it in this county. And that is due to the fact that when this passed legislature, the teachers already got it in this town. And and all the state workers and everyone else got it except for the county workers. And all your local workers for county are police, fire, DPW. They didn't get it because basically Mass Municipal Association put 2 requirements on it. One requirement on it, that the member units, which are towns within Plymouth County, the 26 of them, 23 of them, I mean, had to vote this. So, so until you do, obviously, this small group of the total state employees, or town employees will not get it. So, do you have any other questions regarding this?
It's just straight vote, because a lot of times the votes for the county are weighted.
Yes.
By the size of the community, we all have a percentage that we make up. So this is just straight voting, right?
That's correct.
Yes.
It's a straight vote for yes and no.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate the input, and I don't want to speak on behalf, but I feel like so far you've heard everybody is not concerned with the number, if that is the correct number, for sure.
Yeah, and again, it's so hard to figure that number because you're talking about some survivors. You're talking about, you know, retirees, and you have to take out the ones that are under a year because they don't get it. So you'd have to do some heavy duty figuring to get the exact figure. But, you know, you can assume if you have 100 retirees, you've got $20,000 approximately. You multiply it out to 320 times, you know, times that amount. And again, it isn't a budget issue this year. It's going to be an actuarial assessment against your retirement, the amount of money you owe on retirement, which is costed out over the next 20 years, obviously, until they do put a date on. I think it's sometime in 2036 or something right now, and it keeps moving up. But so there's not like you have a budget that's already been ratified that has to be changed.
I guess maybe Ari or Todd, are you comfortable in the numbers you came up with originally? Again, we're really splitting hairs here, but based on what you heard today, do you anticipate much difference from what you already come up with?
I mean, Todd used I think we indicated at the time, that is a little bit of a guesstimate. You know, we used the formula that Perrette gave us.
Provided. Yeah.
Basically it's the liability. I don't really have an explanation for why our number based on the Perrette estimate was one thing and then the actuarial so it was another. I thought the answer was the 18,000, but maybe not.
So the difference is 16.
What's the question on that? Was it 18,000?
The actuarial study report that we got from Sherman said that the COLA base is 18,000.
Yes, it is now, but this is based on the 2022.
Well, according to the letter we got, it said 16,000.
No, the COLA base right now, until the end of this year, till July 1st, is 16,000 for Plymouth County. And as of July 1st, they voted to make it 18,000. So next year,
the reason the COLA base in addition.
yes. So the next year's, the COLA base will go up, but it'll only be 3%, it won't be the 5%.
Well, it could be less. The COLA water is.
So this is just retroactive on FY23 basis, not the forward basis.
Correct, on the 16th, yeah.
Okay, so then
Yeah.
so it sounds like we should be pretty locked in the 320 increase for the first worst case.
Yep.
All right, that makes me feel better. All right.
I think we made a motion.
I started to,
Yeah,
so,
go for it.
I make a motion that we, approve the request from Plymouth County Retirement Association Board and accept Chapter 269 of the Acts of 2022.
So moved.
All right, motion on the floor. Carboni?
Aye.
Fabian?
Aye.
Jay, aye. Thank you very much. Appreciate the input as well. You're welcome. All right, it is 6:20, so we will offer it up to the Finance Committee to open the meeting if they'd like.
Okay, this is the June 12th Finance Committee meeting. It is 6:20. Members in attendance, Member DeRosa, Member Beals, Member Candido, Member Constant, and Chairman Plunk.
All right.
And first item, I believe we're going to do the transfers, correct?
Yes, sir. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, new members. Nice to see both of you here this evening. All right. Ari, would you and Todd like to walk us through these transfers?
Todd's right here.
Sure, so, everyone should have a summary, sort of lead sheet, that was distributed. I would ask, we'll just go through it in order, except I would ask if we could take one item out of the order, because we have a department head here who has another commitment. So if it's okay with the group, I'd like to do the facility departmental transfer first while Paul Neese with us. And Paul can go on his way. Yeah, sure, maybe next to Tracy.
Welcome, Paul.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Good, how are you this evening?
So as you know, Paul, since he came on board with us late fall, has had a number of interesting projects and challenges. More recently has had to put quite a bit of effort into rehabbing the animal shelter. So we're in a position where his current expense budget is depleted. He still has a couple of small projects he'd like to be able to execute, and he does have savings in the salaries side of his budget due to some vacancies we've had with part-time custodial positions. So we wanted to ask the two groups to consider transferring $15,000 from facility salaries from the custodial area to building maintenance in the expense budget. And Paul's here if you have specific. I know you're pretty well up to date on what he's been up to. So.
Maybe Paul, if you wouldn't mind, we just mind for everybody here and at home, just letting us know what those couple of other projects you'd like to knock out for the rest of the year would be.
So there's, we had taken out 2 air conditioning units out of the accounting office and had replaced them with new ones. So they're sitting over at DPW right now, just waiting. So we were going to use it for the Old Town Library.
Okay, all right. Any of the select board members have any questions on this particular one?
Well, I think you've been, since you've been on board, I know that a lot of these projects are being done, so I'm not surprised that, being aggressive and getting them done isn't bringing us here today looking for a transfer, so.
Well, the fact that the animal shelter was empty at the time, we took it upon ourselves to do some extra work there. So that
If the board gets
it
a
didn't help the
chance,
budget, but it helped the project.
if the board gets a chance to visit the shelter, you'll be amazed. It's transformed.
Even the photos online from Dave, I've noticed a significantly nicer looking background when you show the animals now.
It helps us at the owner too.
And Ari, I think you'd mentioned this, the salaries and part-time custodians, these are unfilled positions right now, right?
There'll be a lot of churn over the year that we're able to fill. There'll probably still have additional savings in that accounting.
Yeah.
Salaries,
Yeah.
beyond 15,000, yeah.
We've actually been interviewing today
Excellent.
to fill those positions.
They're tough positions to fill, especially in this job market.
So are we looking to vote each one of these individually?
Maybe just this once, unless, I guess we could take the vote later, but if there's any other questions for Paul, I just knew he had another commitment.
Yeah, open it up to Finance Committee if they've got any questions on this.
I'm sorry, what?
No, do you know if you had any questions for Paul this evening on this item?
So 15,000 is just because of air conditioning, so it's what?
No, there's, well, there is we're putting in air conditioner for Lily and Drain as well. So there's multiple AC projects going on.
So it's for AC projects?
Yeah.
For the animal shelter, if the animal shelter hadn't happened, we probably
Yeah,
would have
we
been
wouldn't
fine.
be-
Yeah, I wouldn't, yeah. There would have been more than enough money in my in my budget to take care of it.
And Mr. Chair, might I add that that was some of that animal shelter stuff was a surprise to us after the inspection that we got.
Yep.
The surprise inspection from the state. There was some work that was scheduled to be done, but then the state came in and said, oh no, we want all this done too. So, so we had no way of knowing.
And subsequently, they've been back. It was just a unscheduled visit, but they like the results, so.
Yep, yep. So,
I had a question if I may. Is this air conditioning or a mini split?
They're mini splits.
And probably, we didn't really meant, just to, for clarification, we didn't really specify this, but the removals in accounting are necessitated because of the wall project and so we put in a wall separating accounting and HR, which probably is something about.
Makes sense.
And, so that required, the single line, single duct wasn't gonna work anymore, so we had to put in a new unit.
Big price
And
difference
the
too.
transfer, actually, it's not going towards new units because we already have units. It's all basically labor.
All right. Any further questions? All right.
okay.
Is this joint or just finance committee? So you remind me?
This is both.
It is from both, okay. All right, does anybody want to make a motion on this particular transfer?
So moved.
Second.
All right. A lot of names here now. All right, Member Carboni?
Aye.
Fabian?
Aye.
Day? Aye. DeRosa?
Aye.
Wait, what did I just call you? Darren? Sorry. New face. Candida?
Aye.
Constant? Chairman?
Blanca.
All right, there we go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, Darren.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul.
You guys have a great night.
Thank you.
Bye, Paul. Thank you. All right, where would you like to take us now?
So now we'll go back to the top. But thank you. I know Paul had another commitment. And by the way, Tracy has the original documents, which afterwards we'll have the two chairs sign so that we can execute whatever transfers are approved tonight. So the next three involve the finance committee, but I'm sure the select board will be interested because these are all areas that you oversee. We have three transfers before the finance committee tonight. The reserve fund currently has a balance of $139,055, and the three transfers before you total $87,500. First, we have legal services for $45,000. And I'm sure you're aware that we've had some ongoing litigation, and you know, this will help us get through June. And I think after that, the budget should be fairly settled for next year.
Well, yeah, I mean, the sources of that cost pressure are gonna continue.
Oh, okay.
To some degree anyway, at least in some cases. So, at least speaking code. Yeah. It's really a combination of litigation activity as well as counsel with the rezonings, you know, so that the hospital, for example, caused quite a bit of cost. So, you know, that's mostly gone, but the litigation's going, it continues. It's cannabis related.
Any questions here? No?
I had a
Finance committee?
question. On the budget for legal services for the 45, that's going to lawsuits, and that's just the KP Law legal services budget, not anything with the additional services like if we were having an outside.
Exclusively KP.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I
No
guess,
special counsel.
No
right,
special
it's possible that KP
Thank
could
you.
want to hire somebody to farm out, but they would go through KP, and that hasn't happened, but
Gotcha.
yeah,
Just want that.
yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
Do you want to do individuals
It's
or?
entirely up to the finance committee.
All right.
These are their fund. Would you like me to do the other two or?
Oh, you said you're voting?
Individually, you want to do all three?
Yeah, we could, we'll vote, yeah, let's vote individually. We should vote individually. Oh, make a motion?
You guys,
Can I make a motion?
second yours.
Oh.
Oh, I thought you made the motion. I was ready. I'm gonna second it.
I'll make a motion to approve the, transfers of 45,000 reserve fund for legal services.
Second.
Member Deloria?
Aye.
Neil?
Aye.
Aye.
Constance?
Aye.
And Karen Plonker, aye.
The second request we have before the Finance Committee this evening is from the Animal Control Department to cover additional callback costs that we've had through the salary area in the amount of $22,500. And this was primarily related to covering a absence of the ACO due to illness.
Okay. Any, have any questions? Make motion to transfer $20,500 from the reserve fund for animal control salaries.
Second. DeRosa's aye.
Beals, aye.
Candido aye.
Austin, aye.
And Plonker, aye.
Thank you. The last reserve fund transfer we have is from the transfer station. If you'll recall, during the budget process, it's a 24 budget process, we identified some excess costs we were incurring this year related to bulky waste and recycling, and next year's, but the 24 budget was adjusted accordingly, but we believe we're going to be short this year. The request is $20,000 to cover the excess cost of bulky waste, and Public Works Director Moniz is here this evening if you have specific operational questions. And I should also note that the board did approve rate increases for the transfer station. We'll see the result of next year as well.
I just had one question on the rate increase. Is the rate increase, Frank? Is the rate increase just to keep up, or is it to get ahead of the price increases?
So as of right now, it's more so just to keep up with the increases we're seeing, to be fair to the public. We don't want to put them up too high, but we also only raised prices on bags and stickers, which is a direct reflection on the cost, the increase in cost and get rid of the municipal solid waste. We also increased the construction bulky waste because that price keeps going up pretty good. Part of that is we got rid of commercial.
Yeah.
We've been this year, and I think part of that 20 grand we're going to see is we've seen a big spike in commercial, which was kind of, you know, because of the increase you're seeing at the plants and the different recycling centers. They're coming to the transfer station because it's less expensive. So, and then mattresses was the other increase, but that's because we've seen a pretty large increase in disposable mattresses.
Okay, thank you.
Another question, Frank. And if I recall from the budget discussions, to refresh my memory, recycling costs too are difficult to predict and also impacting the budget, if I recall.
Yeah, big time. So, actually, so one thing, I guess, cardboard, for example, we just started, it's a very small amount, but we're just starting to get money on cardboard back just this last month or so, but the whole rest of the year we were paying out to get rid of cardboard.
Whereas years ago, it was
Years ago, it was a good number that we were getting. Same thing with glass, and even a lot of the plastics, we were getting revenue from it, where now we're paying to get rid of it. But you never know, it kind of sways back and forth.
Right.
So, yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions? Make a motion to transfer $20,000 from the reserve fund to cover solid waste expenses.
Second.
DeRosa's aye.
Beals, aye.
Candido aye.
Austin, aye.
Plonker, aye.
Thank you.
Just have a quick question for Todd. So where does this leave us now with our reserve fund balance?
Just over 55,000, I believe.
50, math item was 51,000.
Thank you, 51. Yeah.
51?
I think it was in my email that I sent out.
Right. Yep.
And so our goal is not to tap that, but we do have one more joint meeting in mid-July, so see how things go. So we have 5 departmental transfers which require a vote of both the select board and the finance committee. The first one is the select board salaries, transfer of $610 from select board expenses. And this was to do with a contractual step increase in mid-May that was not included in the 23 budget. And then that will make the budget whole for the year.
All these next ones are both of us, right? All of
Yes, all of these involve both groups.
Let's run through all of them and then,
Okay,
yeah.
and then we can come back through. The next transfer is the Board of Assessors, $14,500 to their expenses from the technology expenses maintenance line. And this is to cover revaluation services of $12,500 and technology GIS services for $2,000. This FY23 was a certification year for the assessors with valuations, and when they developed their 23 budget, they just budgeted for a normal update year for reval services. But this all needed to be done in order to have DOR approval of the new assessments in the fall. And so that's not going to be recurring. The Tech GIS piece is, their budget for 24 was adjusted to properly cover these costs. If you recall, I think we had a transfer last year as well related to Tech and GIS for the assessors. So we believe the 24 budget is set at a better level.
Quick question, Todd. Do we know how often the assessors need to do this reevaluation? Or Leah, you in the board, right?
It used to be every 3 years. I believe now it's every 5.
It's 5 of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Somewhere we have a sticky note in 5 years to
Right.
bump it up again.
Right. The next we took care of facilities. Then fire overtime. You'll recall during the budget process when we met with the chief. The chief is here.
Yeah, you had a call.
Okay. So we'll do our best here without him. So he did provide in the narrative some background on the calls for service, and the budget we did adjust going forward a bit, the overtime budget, but not to the degree we would have ideally liked to. So this is a proposal to transfer from police salaries. They have set savings in the dispatch area due to a 911 grant, state grant, to fire overtime to cover some of the callback excess. And we just learned within the late last week that we've got additional firefighters out, and so I can't definitively tell you this will cover us right through June 30. We may be back for a modest adjustment at the July meeting to get them through. And again, maybe the chief will come back in before we vote to answer any questions you may have.
Oops, here it comes.
Keep going?
Yeah.
Okay.
Back to him.
Next, we have a transfer to the agricultural high school line for tuition and transportation, $54,584. This is for a Lakeville student that's attending Norfolk Agricultural School, not Bristol Agricultural. This was something that came up after the budget was in place for 23. We did fortunately have savings in both the other regional school assessments, Freetown, Lakeville, and Old Colony, due to final state aid numbers being favorable for both districts, and they revoted their assessments for their member communities. So this would propose transferring $45,000 from Freetown Lakeville assessment and $9,584 from Old Colony. Again, this isn't reducing anything to do with those budgets. We've paid the full assessment for both of those regional schools. It's just we set the budget at a higher level, and it was re-amended by their school committees later in the year. And then lastly, group insurance, property and liability insurance, we're requesting $2,500 to be transferred from the employee benefits area. And this was for a deductible invoice that's related to pending litigation that arrived just a couple of weeks ago. Otherwise, we just made it on the insurance budget.
It's the insurance deductible on litigation the town's been, the litigation is being handled through the insurance carrier, but this is the deductible that we have to pay.
Okay.
So those are the 5 for your consideration. And the chief's back if you have specific questions on the fire overtime.
One quick question on the agricultural school. I know that number, there was some discussion with other towns, not just us, if that was the correct number or not. Do we anticipate any movement on that, or is that a final number from Norfolk? Or am I
I think
missing?
the question with the other communities was around the debt assessment from Bristol County.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So this is in addition, another Lakeville student that couldn't be serviced at Bristol. There was a program at Norfolk. So we're transporting, so a lot of this is transportation expense, not so much tuition. And we do have this student budgeted for next year, continuing on at Norfolk Aggie. Just one student.
One student, $54,000.
Yep.
Yes, sir. The cost is actually higher than that. Yep.
So if said student gets old enough and decides to drive, then where they would drive, just like they would drive to regular high school, right? You don't have to give them reimbursement or anything for their driving expenses.
You have to have it allocated.
I believe
Yeah, we would,
it's
I mean,
requirement.
we would probably negotiate some sort of, we'd still pay. It would just be much less than paying a service provider to transport the student to Walpole.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
I think we have to provide, there has to be a seat on the bus for every student.
And you have to allocate it out.
Yep.
Yeah, and in that case, it's usually like just a single van or whatever that,
Correct,
yep,
for one student.
right.
To Walpole and back twice a day. Yep,
That's a ride.
yep. Yeah, I believe this year it's $260 per day times 180 school days, plus tuition.
Plus the tuition.
Yep.
Anybody else have any other questions? Or the chief is with us again if anybody, there were no questions yet, chief, but just in case there were any, welcome back. Okay.
Just one more, I can't help myself. When we're talking about litigation, is this something we know about? As
The deductible or the other one?
the deductible?
Yes,
Okay. Okay,
I can remind you later if you.
okay, please.
I had a question on the deductible. Is that the wellness program, the EAP program? That one, or is there?
2,500, you mean?
Yeah.
Where it's coming from?
Yeah,
I believe it's just coming from savings and health insurance, right?
because it says
Well, yeah, but
wellness,
it's the wellness line.
Wellness line,
Yes.
yeah.
Yep,
and that one's what, 10,000
it's
a year?
10,000, that's correct. Yep. Almost certain you're right. Sounds right, yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
All right, if there are, and this is both of us, correct?
7,500.
No, it's
It
our
used to
cost.
be 10 though, you're right.
If there are no objections, we'll take one vote on all these transfers, otherwise we can pull out any that anybody wants to. No? Okay. Entertain a motion to approve these transfers between accounts as presented this evening.
Second?
All right, Carboni?
Aye.
Fabian?
Aye.
Day, aye. Derosha?
Aye.
Beals? Aye. Candido?
Aye.
Constant? Aye. Blanca? Aye. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. All right.
Thank you. So Tracy has the original forms for
Okay.
Chris and Brian to sign before you leave town.
You've got them. Do you have them
Thank
tonight,
you.
Tracy? All right.
And we'll do this again July
I'll
10th.
do it too. All right.
If we need to, July 10th.
July 10th.
Any finals?
Okay.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Todd.
Thank you, everybody. Okay. Okay, Finance Committee, did you have additional items this evening?
We do.
Feel free to run through those if you'd like.
Next on the agenda is appointing a representative to the Capital Expenditures Committee. Before we do that, I'll remind the committee members that currently in the public as well. And as a reminder that the current representatives, Larry is a member of the Fire Department Building Committee. Katie's a member of the COA Renovations Committee. And I'm a member of the Old Colony School Building Committee. So with that, we're in discussion on who would like to volunteer. It can be any one of us for the Capital Expenditures Committee. So who?
I would say I know there are 2 open positions. I'll take
Correct.
whichever one Maureen doesn't want. So your first choice.
Look at that.
Chivalry's not.
I'll take capital expenditures just because I have a child in the schools and I think it's kind of, it's one of those things where you don't want to add into it.
Okay. So I will make a motion to appoint member Candido as a member of the Capital Expenditures Committee.
Second.
Okay. We'll start down there.
Rogers, aye.
Beals, aye.
Candido, aye.
Costa, aye.
And Plonker, aye. Thank you, Maureen.
Thank you.
And next is to appoint a representative to the Regional School Finance Committee. And I know Darren has already expressed interest, so I will make a motion to appoint member Darren Beals to the Regional School Finance Committee.
Second.
Rogers, aye.
Beals, aye.
Candido, aye.
Costa, aye.
And Plonker is aye. Thank you. Let's see, and the last item on the agenda, it's the May 31st meeting minutes. We need to approve them, and I did distribute them a week or so back. Just one question for Tracy. I noticed in the meeting minutes, it said that for the vote to appoint the members for the vacant seats, that upon a motion that I step down. Is that a procedural issue that is overlooked?
Typically, chairs don't make motions. I'll propose a motion. So if you actually make a motion, you need to step down from your chairmanship to make the motion.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm gonna disagree with that statement. I think that's the way it used to be prior to 2016. I don't think you have to do that anymore, but I mean.
I don't think so either.
If it's not self-serving, I think it's fine.
Yeah. But it was for forever. Everyone had to step down, but yeah, it's not really done anymore, but.
You're staying as chairman, that's all that matters.
Yeah, no, so the step down is just in name where you say, I step down and nominate so-and-so, but I step down and nominate myself.
But not a requirement, as long as it's not and something that's specifically, I understand that. If a conflict of interest, you would step down.
If you have a compensation interest, usually that's the main thing.
Yeah.
It's an interest to you specifically.
Right.
Yeah.
Since you're in a very high-paying position. You know.
So wait.
Can't wait to get that $0
So,
check.
Tracy, you can amend those meeting minutes?
She doesn't need to.
Okay. So we can vote on the meeting minutes with the amendment that Tracy will strike that item that I stepped down. Okay. So I'll make a motion to accept the May 31st meeting minutes with that one correction.
Second.
Rogers, aye.
Beals abstain.
Candido, abstain.
Costa, aye.
And Plonker's aye. Thank you. Does anybody else have any new business for the Finance Committee? I do not have anything else. So, good. Okay, so we've gone through all our agenda items, so I will make a motion to close the Finance Committee meeting.
Second. Rogers, aye.
Beals, aye.
Candido.
Costa, aye.
And Plonker's aye. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. Have a good evening. It looks like we've got people for 8 and 13.
You do?
Is that it? Or am I missing anything else? Oh,
Oh, 8 people for, yes, I'm sorry. I think of residents for some reason, I apologize.
no.
For 8, yes, and for 13, correct.
Okay. All right, everybody okay moving 8 and 13 up? That's gonna help.
We can do
get these
13
folks on?
first. Okay.
I'm sorry, what was
We
that?
can do 13 first.
Mark, that's you. Mark, that's you.
Oh, I think Lorraine just has to do 13 first.
Oh, 13 first?
13.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Probably quicker.
That's you. Sorry.
Sorry, Mark. A few extra steps in.
I'm always last.
Save the best for last, right?
Town planners tend to be vampires anyway.
All right. Moving on to number 13, discuss and possible vote the employment agreement for Erica Correa, the town's treasurer collector. Welcome this evening.
Thank you.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Doing well, thanks. Ari, I know you've been spearheading this. Would you like to walk us through?
The special act establishing the appointed treasurer position allows the town the option of establishing an employment agreement. The select board opted to go that route in 2021 when Erica was hired. And believe it or not, her contract is up now. So.
Fast.
So, the agreement expires on June 30th, so I've taken the liberty of working with council to draft a renewal, which essentially continues the existing agreement with eliminates the probation language and updates the salary. So, I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Leah, Lorraine, any questions?
I just had a couple of, I mean, I mapped it back and there was just a couple of, I don't know if you consider them typos or not, but on page 2 under the compensation,
The new or the old one?
this is, no, the new, I'm talking
Okay.
new.
Thank you.
Where it's under number 1, I think that there's an error here with regards to what is presented to us this
Text of the
evening.
number.
Because it shows here 85,000
That's
and
the old
then,
one.
and then in parentheses, it says
Oh, I see what you're saying.
90,177
Oh, my
during the
goodness.
first year of service.
Yeah,
So,
we'll fix that.
I know that it was part of the old one was the 85, so is it, we starting this approval of this, contract?
Should be 90,000.
It should be 90,
Yeah,
okay.
we'll fix that. Thank you.
The 9177 or just
Yeah.
90 straight?
Should be 90,177.
Okay, all right. And then, just a couple of spots on page 3, under, severance pay, number 7. Most of it, it referred to select board.
Yep.
This one does say Board of Selectmen, if we can adjust that.
Yeah.
I have a question on the same paragraph, if I can.
Yeah.
I noticed this one said after the successful completion of probationary period, but she's through that unless we're
Yeah, I probably
restarting.
caught that. Yeah, okay. We'll get rid of that. We'll strike from F. We'll start with in the event of termination. We'll strike out the part of the previous language.
Sorry, language.
Okay, no, that's good. And then on page 4, under, number 8, voluntary termination, again, it says Board of Selectmen, if we can change that to Select Board.
Yeah.
And I just have one more, if we can go back to page 2, under fringe benefits, down at the very bottom. It just seems like this, and I noticed it on the previous version, where it says vacation unused but accrued is generally forfeited. It just, I couldn't quite understand that, but in the terms of where it is in the document.
I don't understand. Because it's.
Vacation unused but accrued is generally forfeited.
Correct, that's the policy. That's the employee handbook policy.
So if at the end of the year, she had 10 days, she would lose those days unless we approve a carryover.
She can carry over 5.
Right, but I guess it's just the way that it was worded just seemed to be,
And actually, this line, we need to fix that because the 5 days that requires select board approval under our policy, so 5 days is automatic. So we need to address that language.
it just,
So maybe it should be vacation unused, but accrued is generally forfeited. However, the employee may carry up to 5 days of vacation from one fiscal year to the next.
correct.
Okay, got it.
What if it was vacation unused but accrued is forfeited of any value over 5 days?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, just need the clarification there.
yeah, we'll take care of that. No problem.
believe that's all I had. Thank you.
Leah, anything you'd like to bring up?
Nope, I'm all set.
Well, I'll make a motion that we approve the contract for Eric Correa as our treasurer collector, as presented and
With
amended.
Second, sorry.
Okay, quick discussion point before voting. I just want to say I've heard nothing but great things. So, thank you for being part of the team. Everybody has very good things to say. I've personally been impressed at some of the things you've helped move forward. So thank you very much. And just want to check before voting, is everything here what you expected to see, even with the amendments? Okay, perfect. Member Carboni?
Aye.
Member Fabian?
Can we just get a copy when it's redone?
Of course.
Okay, yes.
The board will be signing it.
Yeah, but digital copy too.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Aye.
Member Day? Aye. So thank you very much. Appreciate it. Well, should we take Mark now?
The light out.
Come on up. Let's go back to number 8. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you.
All right, this is discuss and possible vote to approve the policy for consideration process of chapter lands. It's a continuation of 3 weeks ago, or was it the meeting before that?
Last meeting.
An earlier meeting, where there was some general feedback on some small tweaks, and I believe those have been presented to us. Would you like to speak through any of those changes?
We made the revised sections are in yellow. They're on pages 3, 5, 6, as well as on the checklists. We attempted to incorporate the direction provided by the board at that meeting, provide more information on factors for consideration, what would be the basis for considering whether appropriate going to chapter land. Clarify that the landowner may revoke a notice of intent to convert at any time. Also, that putting the language about the community preservation committee that we talked about, as well as a little more clarification as to what the town administrator and or / staff is expected to do in terms of providing the board with analysis and potential uses. And the checklists, we just expanded a little. We clarified the order a little bit, the councils where it needed to be, and then added in some language for the appraisals when they to not only show when the deadline is, but also when they come in.
Okay.
So that's more sort of an administrative thing.
Mark, anything you'd like to add since the last changes?
The only thing Ari did mention is there was, we added a sentence just to clarify that the board may enter into executive session for the purposes of negotiating with the property owner. And that's right at the...
And just for those at home, that's not something we're making up. That's part of Mass General Law that allows that practice.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay, excellent. I appreciate the changes. I think it looks like you collected everything provided. I think this is an excellent first go at it, and I hope it provides kind of framework for others that we see in the future. Any other thoughts or comments?
Who will be monitoring the checklist? Will that be our office? You'll take care of that?
No,
okay.
Yeah.
So remind me, did town council look at this?
Yes.
Did we get that? I don't remember seeing that.
Town council looked at the first version. The revisions that we put in, as the council's not looked at that section, but frankly, that was more policy related anyway. So, but the initial version that you saw 3 weeks ago, town council had reviewed and edited quite extensively, actually.
Okay, I know the assessors do their own thing when it comes to some of their own thing, but have they looked at this?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes. We shared it with them. They gave us a couple suggestions, yeah.
Okay, and they're okay with it, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, I just don't recall if we heard that or not.
No, we share it with staff in general, as well, including the assessors.
Okay.
It was primarily with Mr. Oliveri. I don't remember if Dave Golden was involved or not. I think he was as well.
Well, then I'll make a motion that we adopt the Town of Lakeville Select Board Chapter 61 Right of First Refusal Policy and Procedures as presented.
Second.
All right, Member Carboni?
Aye.
Fabian?
Aye.
Jay? Aye. Thank you, and thank you everybody who's put work into this.
Yep.
I know it's a lot. It's a confusing one, to say the least.
We will put the approval date on and we'll circulate it to all the relevant boards and committees as well.
Great. And it's always something to be amended later if we learn something new. Absolutely. All right, appreciate it. All right, so I don't have anybody. All right, do we want to go back up to 5 and work our way down then? We don't have anybody else. Melissa, Mark, do you have any other items?
Don't. So unless Ari wants me here for the water for 310, or you all set? Okay, yep.
All right.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, so we'll go back up to number 5, revisit possible vote on application for outside entertainment from Alexander Kurskini, 1 Cedar Pond Road for July 22nd, 2023. All right. So, a lot of good conversation last time, and we've learned some new things. Ari, would you like to give us the update from Town Council's review?
Yeah, certainly. We have an opinion from Town Council regarding this issue. The question is, under what authority could the board, or would the board, issue licenses for entertainment events on private property? And what we've been told by Town Council is that we actually don't have authority to do that. What you do have authority to do is issue licenses for events where admission is charged. So for private events or for public events. There's a section of general law, section chapter 140, section 182, that talks about that whole process of when you can license and when you can't. And it's for public events or for private events which are ticketed. So in the case of these two, where we asked the county council specifically, he said the feeling was that because they're for entertainment on private residential property and a fee is not being charged for admission, it was his opinion that the select board doesn't have the authority to require entertainment licenses for these events. That being said, if there are complaints or other issues or things along those lines, that there are protocols through the police department as well as for the Board of Health to address those concerns. The Board of Health does have some authority from a noise ordinance standpoint enforcement, but in terms of just, someone wanting to have, we've had situations where the select board has approved outdoor entertainment permits for people who have acoustic guitars acoustic guitar playing behind, on their property. But actually, that kind of thing. It's probably not, as far as we can tell, there's no authority for that.
All right. As far as we know, there is no charge for entry in either of these events.
Right.
That's one of the next agenda item. Okay. And it's on a weekend anyways.
Right.
So
That's the other
everybody else
thing,
is
yeah.
weekdays only. All right.
So it's basically an honor system because
It's a private property. I mean, the
private
board,
property, we don't know. I mean, there could be,
I have a theory as to why this has been happening. We dove pretty deep on this, and we found that, actually Tracy found that the select boards have been issuing, these types of permits since at least 1995. And our working theory is that it's connected somehow to the period when the board sat as the Board of Health. And then, when the Board of Health was created, because the Board of Health didn't have the authority, it's just speculation to do this, that the select board just kept doing it. But it was a long time ago, so it's hard to say. But but as far as we can tell from a legal standpoint, if you think about it this way, it stands to reason that a government entity does not have the ability to, does not have the authority to regulate what people do on their own property, unless it's disturbing the peace, disturbing somebody else. And that's really what it comes down to.
so we need not take any action on this? Is that basically where we're at?
Council's assessment was that the select board doesn't have any authority to regulate these events.
That brings up a question. Do we have to, if there's no policy that we have in place for these, then there's nothing to really unvote. So what do we do? Just take the application off of our website, basically?
Yeah, I think that's correct. I think There's no policy in place on this either. We don't have a policy.
Right.
So, I think my suggestion would be that we take it down from the website and the board take some action on these applications.
So
And then we'll have to make sure the police know what's going on, that they're keep an eye on it.
in reading the general law on it, which I don't think the whole thing is included in the legal opinion, but if you actually go and want to fall asleep and read it, I mean, it sounds like the board could decide to have a policy on fees, but it would have to be a public display
Right.
on a weekday. Like there could be something, but we don't have it right now.
Right.
We could, and if it's an event that's being charged and so on.
Right.
But no matter what, if somebody's having a little party in their backyard and they have some music playing, it's the right to do so.
Right. I mean, I really do feel like by continuing to issue these permits, we're almost taking away the tools that like the police have in place by statute, by law, to handle noise problems or other kinds of problems, because we've basically, this is what happened in one incident in the past where, you know, the permit was really, I have a permit, so I actually like this being able, I like the police being able to do their job if there's noise complaints, because they have a whole list of things that they go through, which are far more, I guess, scrutinized and evaluated than our simple, permit application, so.
I guess my question is, again, because it's on the honor system, so if somebody does have outdoor entertainment, they are charging admission, and they don't submit a application for permit for that type of function, how do you police that? You know, you don't.
The police.
But if they don't get called, we just don't know. That's,
Well, my interpretation, and I did not stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night, is that only if we've set a fee, could we like get involved, even for an event like that.
Right.
So we would have to then set a, they could do that now, then someone could complain and they say, well, is there a fee that's set? No, there is no fee that's set. So to be, I think we'd be back to square one again. Like we would have to come up with a fee to have enforcement. I mean, do we at this point have to just get back to not only this applicant, but item 6 applicant and say, you know, with a letter, the board has determined no.
That's what we would
no
do. If that's what you
license.
decide to do tonight, that's what we would do, yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with this. I mean, I'm okay with this because I know that, so let's say anyone's party, not even these particular ones, go crazy out of control at 8:00 PM, the police can handle it appropriately, okay? If there's a permit in place, then there's nothing they can really do. So that sort of ties them, you know, but going forward, that's exactly what my thing is. Do we just not have anything? Do we have a, you know, document that says, please notify us without, you know, issuing a permit, just so that we know what's going on? I mean, I'm not quite sure what other communities do either.
we can table that discussion for a future.
Yeah, it's a great point to figure out.
Right.
But for these two at least, I mean,
I'd say
should
we
we,
take no action.
I mean, do we want to just entertain a motion of no action, send a letter summarizing the lack and perhaps include a copy of our noise bylaws?
Could do that too.
Chair, we have noise bylaw.
State's noise bylaws?
We go by the state's noise bylaw, which was for a shooting range.
Well, you had something at the last
There
meeting.
is something,
Speaking
though.
to electric versus acoustic.
Yeah, that, Ed Cullen, the health department, Ed Cullen had sent.
Okay.
Yep. So I guess we could look at that.
Well, I'm fine sending a copy of those. Since they reached out.
So I guess I'll second your motion.
Okay. Any further discussion? Looking
The
something up.
only thing I would say is, we do get busy during the year, and, you know, I was trying to work on this with Ari and this through the winter, because this, you know, particular incident happened last summer, and here we are trying to work on it on the fly, so if we could actually put it on the calendar for, you know, whenever it is, instead of just saying we'll do it, but maybe put a definitive time to do it, whether it's November 1st, December 1st, or January 1st or something, so.
We have another item where we can layer that right into. All right, if there's no further discussion then, Member Carboni?
Aye.
Member Fabian?
Aye.
Day, aye. Thank you very much. And I agree, we need to come back and figure this out. All right, number 6. Do we want to repeat that motion and vote? We should have done 5 and 6 together.
I just,
Carboni?
I,
Fabian?
Aye.
Day, aye. Thank you. All right. Number 9. Discuss and possible vote on a request from the town clerk to send state political committees a letter regarding appointment of election workers. Annual housekeeping, if I remember correctly. Any questions on what the clerk has sent us?
I'll make a motion, to approve the request for the town clerk to send letters to the state political committees regarding the appointment of election workers.
Second.
All right, Carboni?
Aye.
Fabian?
Aye.
Day, aye. Thank you. Number 10, discuss and possible vote to approve request to connect to Taunton Water 310 Kenneth Welch Drive. Ari, take it away on your update.
So this has been a saga since last August, maybe September, July. The water connection, as you recall, this facility was given a temporary connection to a hydrant by Taunton Water without really seeking the request the permission of the town. That happened. We've gone through a long period where they've changed management companies and some other issues. They finally really, the new management company and the ownership have been pretty engaged the last several months, and they've really tackled some of the water consumption issues as well as the recycling issues. The location is no longer on the temporary connection. The request, which I think we give probably a full analysis on, is for 15,000 gallons per day. If you recall, at one point, they requested 50,000 gallons per day, so we're in a much more realistic place. We have about 204,672 gallons left in our allocation with Taunton by our estimation at this point, so 15,000 is fairly reasonable for a facility of this size. We think at this point, that's probably the best it's going to get. They've done, there's still a problem, an issue, there's still a couple of major issues with this building, which are not part of the water bottle. Since we're talking about the facility, I'll just touch on real briefly. The parking issue, we're working through the MOA with them to install the guardrail, but they have one of the tenants, Northeast Alternatives, has obtained off-site parking, and if you go along south side of Kenneth Welch Drive nowadays, it's better. It's not perfect, but it's better. It's 5 to 10 vehicles parked there.
Yeah, there still is some cars.
Still some car there, but it's not a full, stop and shop parking lot there either. And I think the guardrail will probably deal with that for good. I think the cars that are left are pretty much all Jushi cars at this point. There's also an issue with the wastewater. They're in the process of going through the engineering on a new septic field, and they'll be coming to Concom about that relatively soon. What they told us, we've meeting with them later this week. We'll give some more updates on that. And then the fire issue, which has been stop and start off and on, but is mostly resolved at this point, other than a couple of significant structural issues which they're addressing that have to do with the bidirectional amplifier. I think that one's been taken care of, and I believe they have resolved or have a means to resolve the structural access issues that the fire chief is concerned about. So they made some good progress, and at this point, I think we're probably at a point where the water request is about as good as it's going to get from the town's perspective.
so if I can, so this application is from the owner of the building. And then, because the assessment for the water usage
The tenants, so.
would go for the tenants. So
Right.
this is coming from the building owner
Right.
and not
It's from the owner,
tenants.
because the owner, the water flow is billed to the building. And they allocate out on use internally.
Okay.
Also, but I should note, I'm sorry, that, this 15,000 is actually only 10,000 because they already have an allocation for 5,000. It's only plus 10 off the current allocation.
But, if I can perhaps tail off your question, Larry, is that 15,000 for all tenants in the building?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks.
Based on the sheet that's here. So if they've already been approved for 5,000, then this should only say maximum gallons for 10, or is this just gonna override what the original? Because I don't want it to be,
It won't be 20.
it won't be 20.
Yeah, it's
I just wanna
15.
make sure that that's,
The 5 is being replaced by 15.
okay,
So it's plus 10 net.
all right. Well, then I make a motion that we approve the, water application for 310 Kenneth Welch Drive, requesting 15,000 gallons per day.
Second with some discussion after.
Sure.
So I know you just said that we have, like 275,000 gallons.
205,000.
205.
204,672.
Okay, I know you sent us that last week, so then this will be added to that
So
amount.
194.
Okay. Feels like water's becoming scarce.
Scarcer. Well,
Scarcer.
You know, and I guess I'm a glass half full guy because at 204, you know, 50,000 would look like. So, you know, I think plus 10 is reasonably sustainable for such a large facility.
Yeah.
And it's, like I said, I think it's about as good as we're gonna get.
I know we don't typically talk about this. We allocate the gallons per day, but is Taunton also okay with the 45 gallons per minute peak? Is that something that they evaluate when these come in?
They require a flow analysis.
Okay.
As part of their application, as part of their information, so, yeah. We're kind of the first step. We're the ones who sign off and say, yeah, we're going to give that allocation, then Taunton is supposed to do the due diligence on that, on the rest.
Okay.
Engineering.
Good.
Yeah, I guess my concern is that it's taken us a little while to get to the use of 200,000 gallons, but it seems like now with development happening quicker and everything else, I'm just concerned, that's all.
So it hasn't, because it was just since 07. So you're only talking about 16 years to use a third of our allocation. So, I mean, I think you're totally justified in being concerned about that.
It's 204 left, right?
Right.
So we're 96 in or whatever.
Right, correct.
Okay.
And
that doesn't account, I'm sorry, that doesn't count for the ones who were approved pre-2007, which are about 150,000 gallons worth. LeBaron, a few others like that.
Yeah, but this does include the, small 40B that we approved on Bedford Street, right? Didn't we approve that water
I
connection?
believe so, yes.
So I think that's included.
It was like 2,000, 2,500,
Yeah.
something like that,
Yeah.
yeah.
It just seems like for the developments, any potential developments, they do come in denominations of thousands, so, you know.
If you come in, I believe, I mean, LeBaron's probably as big a housing development you're gonna get in this town.
Yeah,
And, LeBaron was, about 100,000 gallons. So, but they're using about 40 or 50, but that gives you a sense of the scale. If you had a really, really big 40B
yeah.
that didn't have its own well, production, you'd have, this would be something. So if it came to the point where with large development, especially large residential development, our water capacity kind of holds that back, which I honestly, in some ways is a result of deliberate policy in the town, because the town as a general policy has tried to constrain development by controlling water and sewer, so.
Yeah, I just don't want to get to the point where we're hovering at 250 and then all of a sudden get hit with a couple big projects and then we're.
We can't do them, yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
you know, I would rather be able to either negotiate with Taunton or something, but.
So as you recall, we had, when this whole thing went down and we thought we were looking at 50,000 gallons.
Right.
We had discussions with Taunton.
Yep,
And there was an initial willingness expressed to look at expanding our allocation. They thought they had a lot of excess capacity. As they started digging into it, and I think probably political issues came up, they became a lot less willing to engage in that. So I think part of it was, Jennifer, from an operational standpoint, they didn't think about when they were expressing willingness, they weren't thinking about the capacity of the water tank to be able to maintain pressure, things like that. Think about for Kent Welch. But I think there's also some concerns from a political standpoint. We're going to give our waterway to Lakeville. But,
I mean, it's, certainly not something that I think, should have been a town administrator goal for the year 2023 or something. But, I think looking at the future of the water is definitely a conversation that needs to take place in the next 2 to 4 years, maybe.
I think that's true.
So, okay, thanks, Brian.
It's also interesting that we allocate water that's pulled out of our physical boundaries back to ourselves.
Yep.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. We had discussion. Any other discussion? No, once, go twice. Member Carboni?
Aye.
Fabian?
Aye.
Day, aye. Thank you, and thank you, Ari, for getting this down for us. Number 11, same kind of topic. Discuss and possible vote to approve request to connect to Taunton Water for 235 Main Street. Much smaller number.
Yep.
I believe this house Tracy Wright already had connection.
I think so, same situation as 237.
Yeah.
So is it change of ownership triggers this each time, or?
What happened was they got their connections and they decided not to use them.
Right.
Oh, okay.
The prior owners were on well.
And I noticed the other one next door, Taunton Water was there very soon after we approved that and dug up the whole front yard.
Yep.
I'll make a motion that we approve the water connection request for 235 Main Street.
Second.
All right, Carboni?
Aye.
Fabian?
Aye.
Day, aye. Thank you, everybody. Number 12, discuss and possible vote to approve the renewal of junk dealer and junk collector for 330 Bedford Street, Steve DeVoli, the Antique Mall. So this was one of the other ones that was outstanding, but they have now provided the clerk with their books. And as far as we know, she is pleased with that result. Otherwise, we wouldn't be talking tonight.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions on this?
And this goes till when to, what's the date? Is it 12/31? June 30th, 2024?
30th, I believe.
Yeah, because they were...
Usually, you include that on the...
Yeah, I think it's April 30th.
That sounds correct. Let me see if I got last agenda here.
I want to make sure that we have the right vote. And was there any indication why this was submitted so late?
Well, Mr. Chair, we don't vote the expiration date. The town clerk issues the actual license. The select board just approves the renewal. And then she actually issues the licensing document that would have the date. It's like a joint thing.
The 30th does ring a bell. 'Cause I think
Right,
last time
usually, that's usually included in our motion though.
Yeah, I think the junk permits are.
22nd.
April does ring a bell, but
This would have been the 522 meeting. Let's see. So that was... Approve. Entertainment. Yeah.
Wait a minute.
Did you find it? Oh, number 9.
Possible vote. Yep, number 9.
Yes, so the last one we did expired May 1st, 2024.
May 1st, 2024.
I'm assuming they're all the same.
Yep, I believe they were. And I know that there was something from our zoning officer that there was did a review to make sure that everything was, was it for all the properties or just the one that we were approving last time?
Mr. Chair.
Yes?
Nate did an inspection of the 3 properties that were, able to apply. One of the properties, didn't get dropped off the memo, but they were denied last year. Will did get notice today from the 3rd property owner that he is no longer applying for a junk collector license anymore. So that will leave us with 2. This one is located in a properly zoned area for the business. So,
Building commissioners memo to us on April 18th that had all 4 of the original properties. For 330 Bedford does say the properties within the business district and renewal of associated licenses is recommended.
Okay. I think, you know, I just have a request, through the town administrator's office to please just make sure that when we get to this type of, review and vote, to make sure that we have that information for all of them. So we don't have to waste any time going back to look at that.
Yeah, and I'm hoping next year they're used to the new bylaw and we don't have to chase them for all this stuff.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be our intention to bring this forward next time without having all the backup.
I appreciate that. So I'll make a motion, to approve the renewal, for the junk dealer and junk collector, application for 330 Bedford Street with, the expiration of May 1st, 2024. Second.
All right, Member Carboni?
Aye.
Fabian?
Aye.
Day, aye. Thank you very much. Okay, we already did 13 earlier, so 14, an update on the historic library ramp procurement.
Okay, so this project was part of the historic library renovation that was approved by town meeting in May of 2021. The initial concept, there's $105,000 appropriated for the project originally, for the renovations. The initial concept estimated somewhere around $50,000 for the procurement installation of the handicap ramp. However, several requirements were encountered during the renovation that resulted in expenditures that were not anticipated on the initial project budget specifically. The original concept envisioned the financing of HVAC improvements with CARES Act proceeds, which didn't turn out to be possible. There were IT improvements, mainly fiber extension, that was not originally anticipated in the budget. Additional workstations and storage cabinets, especially storage cabinets, were required to fit out the space. As a result of these expenditures, there remains about $30,000 available for the ramp project, or about $29,000 less than the lowest bid, which was $58,800. In addition, which I didn't mention in my memo, there's masonry work that needs to occur along there as well, which will cost a few $1,000s. There are several potential options that the select board could pursue to advance this project. You go to fall town meeting to request additional funding, which presumably would be free cash. We could, if you wanted to get the project done quickly, we could fund it with ARPA proceeds. You have to replace the appropriation with ARPA entirely, or else you have to go back to town meeting, but you could do that. That would provide it immediately. Or you could submit the project through the state's ADA grant. This is a pretty classic ADA project. So we feel we have a good chance. That grant process normally opens for applications in August. It also might be an opportunity, if the board decides they want to look at this, to, there are a couple of things you might want to look at from a aesthetic and functional standpoint. Basic question whether a ramp is the best option, whether you want to put in a lift. Lift would be much more expensive, but an ADA grant would possibly allow that to happen. Would require alterations to the building that the historical commission may not be too happy about. Right. Another possibility is, instead of just doing anodized aluminum chrome, you can do powdered coats on the metal, which allow the color to blend in more with the building. And that's a little expensive, but if we did a grant, or we could just throw in about $10,000–$15,000 more and get that done. And that would look a little bit better. It would just blend in with the background color a little better. So, it really is a question of how the board wants to proceed with this. The lowest bid was unfortunately well above the money we have available.
By about $29,000.
Yeah.
Since completing the ADA assessment, have we done any ADA projects yet?
We applied for a project at the elementary school to replace the sidewalks.
Oh, right.
And we were rejected.
Okay.
That was a maximum project, though. That was, like $500,000.
All right.
Maybe 250.
What's the, so if we apply for the grant, what's the turnaround time for the EDA improvement grant?
It opens in late August and closes in late September. But, and if it passes prologue, if last year's the same, it'll take about 30, 60 days for us to hear back. So probably, into the fall.
Because this is, I mean, from where I'm sitting, it falls under that category. I certainly don't want to tie up, you know, free cash for a project that we can find funding from somewhere else. And with ARPA, I know, what do we have till the end of December 2024?
Right next year, yeah. We have a number of projects we're working on
And there's
there.
still projects that, and you know, that we still have, that we're looking to really bring to fruition. So right now we're faced with, you know, it's just a timing element.
Do we, I know I'm asking a question that might not be answerable yet, but do we think we have enough time, if we were to investigate the ADA grant process, enough time to gather figures on the options that we have, whether it's what we're planning on doing, whether it's a ramp, and anodized ramp, or whether it's a lift, or...
So, we had some initial schematic design done by the OPM, back when we were putting this all together. So we have pretty solid designs for the ramp at this point. And the coding is just a coding. It's just, you know, you don't change the design. You just use me as a spec, which is what you're doing. So that would be pretty straightforward. A lift would be a different matter. The Historical Commission, I thought the Historical Commission would be more receptive, because I thought, from my standpoint, looking at the facade, I would have thought the ramp was much more disruptive. But they really don't like the idea of, you have to bust through that stucco on the side of the entrance. They don't like that at all.
And my recollection is that the Historic Commission has approved
They have.
the design for the ramp. So, because we have that approved, I don't want to go back to the drawing board and have to, you know, put all this back together, because they've already been presented and they've approved it.
Right.
And now we're at the point that we need to take action and get this project going. I'd like to see that, you know, done by, I personally, I would say that we go through the ADA grant, because if for some reason, if that gets denied, we do have opportunity to look at the other two options.
Yeah.
But I'd like to get that application in, or pursue it through that application, I guess.
Because if you said it opens in September-ish?
End of August.
End of August, and then closes?
End of September.
Okay.
About a month.
So then even if it's 30 to 60 days after that, town meeting's in that area anyways.
Yeah.
So we may or may not have heard by then. I mean, one of the reasons I remember, you know, the town went through this assessment was to give us the eligibility to apply for these things in the first place.
Right.
I mean, it'd be nice
Honestly, my
to...
recommendation would be, if that ramp fails at the ADA grant, if we don't get a grant for that, I'd probably come back to you and say, yeah, I just want to do ARPA, get it done and done. But I think going for ADA to start is a very responsible thing to do.
Leah, you have any thoughts?
I agree with what Art just said. I think we should just try to do it through the ADA, and if it doesn't work, then I say we just go to ARPA funds. I really don't want to go back to town meeting and ask for that much money in free cash, because we're going to have enough other asks coming up, so, you know.
I think it's probably wise.
I mean, it's already been over 2 years since town meeting approved the initial 105.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, you know, to our defense, some of this stuff isn't easy.
No.
You know, to navigate, so, especially with old buildings, you come up against unexpected things, CARES money, we didn't know whether or not it would approve, so it was a, you know, but.
So we're just discussing voting this evening, so Ari, do you feel like you've got the guidance at this point?
Yeah, I can apply for a grant, that's fine.
Okay.
I can do that.
Would it be for the whole project or the delta that we're looking at, or?
Whole project.
Okay.
If we're really lucky, we'll have some savings. we'll need to do that masonry work, and, we can apply for that as well as part of the prep for the project, but it's possible that we have to do it ourselves.
Okay. All right, any other discussion on that? Going once, going twice? All right, moving on. Number 15, select board policy review discussion. So if this was not clear enough, I apologize. The intent was that at our, it was 522, the one before it, we talked about coming back perhaps and looking at a list of all the existing policies that are out there, some of which had many, many birthdays since they were reviewed, and trying to see if we wanted to come up with just a game plan of attack, whether we wanted Ari's office to start bringing us some that we felt were worth looking at. Some of them might be old but not require any updates. So we got a inventory from Christina, thank you very much, on 20-something policies here, some of which I didn't even know we had. They had their adoption date, their last revision date. Looks like we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-ish that are over a decade since they had a revision. Or just adopted and never revised. So I don't know, Ari, if you had any thoughts on some of these that you think might be worth picking out. Obviously, we have a 5-member board coming next year, so maybe any that are a little bit more dicey, we hold off, but there's certainly some here that might be worth going through eventually and just making sure that there's no updates necessary at all, or, I mean, we've already pointed out a few things tonight where it's old language that just needs to be updated and nothing else, or other tweaks.
Well, we, you know, just start with a very basic thing. We took the liberty of just revising them all from board of selectmen to select board. That's already been done. We did that when that changed. There are some here that, I know just, from experience are dated and need some work. I'll give you an example. The property use one from 2009, that, you know, you're all aware of an issue related to a friends group, which has come along regarding the Old Town Hall, which is, which could be addressed if we updated that policy to reflect the current reality. So, there's some things like that. I mean, my suggestion would be to take the oldest ones and just move your way up.
Okay. I was trying to identify from this list if there were any that were dependent on others, which I don't think so, but maybe we run across that here or there.
Yeah, I don't think so.
But I think I really appreciated this just being put together because I don't know if we've done this before. And it was eye-opening how old some of these actually are. I mean, we've got one that goes back to 1997, apparently, that's not been.
If the board is amenable, we could just bring 2 or 3 to each board meeting and just have you guys look through them. And if there's nothing to be done with them, then that's fine.
Yeah.
But if there is, then we can talk about it. I mean, there is some lift required on the side of part of staff. I'm suggesting revisions and changes. So I'll just be aware of that and patient with that, but we'll do our best we can to move that forward.
I'd like to see eventually, you know, a standard format for our policies and also have them available digitally.
Right. Yeah.
I concur. One other thought I had looking at some of them was we're good at putting the adoption date and like revision dates, but not necessarily why they were revised. And I kind of like having a change log to say revised because of this reason, just so that we don't come in and say, hey, let's change to this. Then that's the reason we changed it in the past because some other issue came up.
Institutional background.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Well, I'm good with having a couple of brought to the table.
And we'll start working on that, so we can work on it.
So if I may,
absolutely.
I don't necessarily think it should be up to the staff to bring forward which ones they think they're select board policies. That's got our name right in it. I don't think that going by date either. I agree with you, Brian, that there are some that are, you know, more, that may rely on another. For example, 2014 doesn't seem old, you know, compared to some of these other ones, but the political signs one, that was one that we were referencing repeatedly in the last 18 months with, you know, political campaigns and all that stuff. So I do think there's some sort of importance to some of these that they should be looked at. You know, procurement is kind of another one that is all inclusive, includes all kinds of departments. So I just don't think it's a good idea to take it by date.
Procurement one's pretty new.
Yeah,
Thankfully,
well,
yeah.
but still, it should be, looked at. I just, something like residential and business driveways and curb cuts, I mean, that has, that we would have to ask, Frank, how important that is in order to rate its, where it should be. So I know most of these policies, I have them, I read them. I can tell you some of them aren't as bad as other ones. So I think that just leaving it up to date probably isn't the best way to go about it, but.
Well, we can certainly pick a couple and put them on an agenda if we want to handle it that way.
Can I make a suggestion, if it's okay?
Sure.
So, in a way, this kind of falls under somewhat else we've been talking about individually with all of you on occasion, and occasionally talked in the group as well, about the need for the board to take some time to step aside from its day-to-day duties and focus on some sort of larger items that are sort of part of the underlying framework. Call strategic planning, call it just housekeeping, like looking at policies. And, maybe it would be helpful. Maybe the board would want to have a special policy session where it just goes over policies. And that way you can go cull through them and you can give some direction to staff out of that meeting. And that way, I think otherwise, doing it at the regular board meeting, is a recipe for 5-6 hour board meetings.
Yeah, we don't want that.
Yeah.
So,
I honestly think even two, depending on what two they are, can take up, a lot of time. Establishing search committees. I mean, we need to make sure everything is, it took us a little while to put together just what we wanted to see in the fire station building committee, and we have a recent police station building committee that we even had for guidance. So, so I think some of them would probably take up more time than I'm willing to sit at a regular board meeting, but,
Even if we maybe were to flush out, okay, if we go down through this list, like, I think Lee, you were alluding to is, like, okay, if I'm just going from the top, ambulance service billing and collection, we need to just list out who would be involved in some discussions about some of that. So
Right.
we understand, like, how impactful is this to get people together to talk about a revision. There's a few on here that are probably, we check in with the clerk, appointments to committees, political science, et cetera, and go from there. I mean, I'm willing to put one on an agenda here or there. I just personally think it's important for us, not this board, but the board going forward in general, to look in the mirror every now and then and say, yep, this still looks good. Check. Nope, this has some tweaks that's needed. Check. Kind of like with the recodification process going on with the bylaws. Just an opportunity to go back and just remember where we came from and update as necessary.
I mean, something like written procedures for the disposition of surplus supplies. I mean, some of it's almost like a no-brainer, but we still need to.
So that was one, that's an interesting one. That was actually written after the Municipal Modernization Act passed. And the town was trying to create processes that would allow the town to be in compliance with the surplus property disposition Municipal Modernization Act. So that's why the timing for that was in 2016.
Right. So, I think it's just, and I mean, to your point, you're right. Ambulance service, billing and collection. Pretty sure we know what department needs to be involved in that. So I don't think that it's out of,
It's actually two departments for that.
Yeah, I don't think it's, impossible that some of these are being worked on at the same time. So, I don't know. Everyone should have these. I don't know if we all want to take a look and then name our top 5, just keeping in mind, that something like weather and emergency notifications, even though Ari has it down to a science, and he really does, where there's a great checklist, whatever, that's something that's upcoming now, with bad weather. Last year we had bad weather, I think it was in the fall, we had a bad
I think it was in
storm.
2021.
Yeah.
We just created the system.
Yeah.
Perfect snow, and bam, we get hit by a
We
hurricane.
got hit by a hurricane.
Yeah.
So, and it worked great that first day, you know, but still, that one to me is like timely, so, anyways, so I feel like each select board member should do a little bit of homework on all of these, aside from everything else, and just, you know, take a look at the date, take a look at what it actually is, and then rate it in some kind of importance almost.
And maybe this turns into a new policy, which is along the lines of like a policy shall be reviewed every X, and then over
Policy
time.
on policies.
Yeah, and then over time, they kind of work themselves out, and hopefully we just get in a
Right,
rhythm
well,
of
and I
business.
think Lorraine had also, brought forward, I guess the school committee has a policy on setting policy.
Yeah.
It's so, you know, so as long as we're gonna do it, I guess I would just like to see it done, you know, instead of just changing a few things, just, and the way the whole thing should look too, where there's consistency. I mean, you know, right now was for the most part, papers inside of plastic sleeves, which made up the, you know, so, anyways, so that's how I think there's more than, you know, one way to rank them other than year. I shared the political signs policy, I don't even know how many times, to different people through the CPA stuff, through the election last year, through the election in 2021.
And we all get a handout when we pull papers.
Right, you know, so that to me is kind of an important one to make sure we have it ready to go for when people pull papers in January, so,
Lorraine, you had something?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to complicate this or overcomplicate this. You know, typically if there's a legislative, change or, an act or something, then, policies will be presented and updated. But a policy sometimes is brought to our attention because of an issue, right? And then we say, oh, we got to look at our policy because there's, it's not reflective of where we are regarding it. But I know that because I can relate to the school committee having been part of that. They have a big, huge binder full of all kinds of policy. And how do you attack that every year or, every other year? It's about, just taking, chunks out of it at a time and reviewing them, as you go along. I think.
And this could even be something we think of just delegating to Ari's department. Bring things to
I
us
just don't want to overcomplicate this. We have a list of policies. Let's just start checking them off.
All right, well, I mean, I appreciate the fact that we at least now have a list to work from. I've got copies of these. I think you shared a binder that we blew the dust off of a few years ago and scanned a bunch of these, but there's more here that I even knew that we had. All right. Well, I mean, Ari, do you want to take a swing at, I'm just asking other members, please weigh in on coming up with a suggested way to attack this?
I can, if the board feels comfortable, my suggestion would be that, you set aside, a special meeting or a special day. 2 or 3 hours, to kind of just cull through these real quick. You do your homework beforehand, we all meet, we sit down, we say, and we talk about where we want to do these and then how we want to work through them. I can be prepared with information on the background on all of those and whether they need to be updated and in our opinion and so on.
Do we know if all these have been digitized? I feel like Christina said some might have been
Scanned,
all right.
The recycling one, we don't have,
I mean, if we can just get everything in one place to start and go from there, because I agree, it's important to get the stuff on the website somewhere.
Yeah,
and
and
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
the
ma'am.
residential and business driveways and curb cuts, we no longer address those. The DPW director handles all curb cuts now, so it's cross that one off. We no
Still a
longer-
But it's still a
Policy.
policy, right? It's still a policy until we
So if the
decide
board wants
that
to
it's
defease it, they
not.
can defease
Right,
it.
they, yeah, they,
The same goes for the other one.
So that one goes on the first on my list, because we can just vote it out, do it away with it, and we're done with that
Then
one.
we did one.
When we did one. So
yeah,
let's
the
have,
board did vote to officially hand over to,
okay.
at that time, the highway superintendent.
Was that the July 2015 or did that come
Yeah.
after? Okay. Yeah, so I mean, we could take a look, hey, why not start easy? Take a look at that one and then we just, it's reviewed, stamp it's been reviewed and carry on.
It's frankly kind of, there's a deeper question to it here. Some of these are policies that, could be part of, say, your personnel policy. Things like that, things like, oh, I don't know.
Well, like the Corey and the domestic violence leave, I can't imagine our human resources doesn't cover some kind of leave for domestic violence. I mean,
And not to turn over a hornet's nest, but, social media policy, that one, I guess
Which I thought was newer than 2014.
principally applies to.
well, there is one that's 2020. That's the one that we were
There's the
talking
2021.
about. So I'm
we
not
have- So I
sure,
think what's
right.
happening there, I'd imagine, I'll be honest, I'll take the hit on this. So Christina had the one in the book, but may not have had the personnel version of it.
Yeah, I do want to stress though that it doesn't say town policies, it doesn't say, it says select board policy
Right.
review, and every select board member is supposed to have it. So I think all three of us should take a look at all of these and say, what is this for and where do I rank it in order of importance? So
That's fine, we can do that.
Let's have a power policy.
and start with, like we just did, start with the easy ones first, and just say, okay, this is covered under human resources, this is whatever, that's,
And I think if we're able to pluck through that we at least hope are easier, then we'll get comfortable in the rhythm of what it takes to go through them and
yeah, and then,
go from there.
yeah.
And then, hopefully if we can get into a rhythm where every year we're just looking at a handful, next year we get 2 new seats, so theoretically, you could have 2 or 3 new members on the board. And then this is a good way to just backfill information as you're going. And then everybody, even if we're doing them every 2 or 3 years, anybody elected, as long as they stay the whole term, gets to participate in that process, at least a couple of these things.
Right. And include a section on, how do you create, is there a guideline for creating a new policy? I mean,
Policies.
aside from law, let's say,
Yep.
but.
All right, so we'll pluck a couple out, we'll give it a shot, go from there, and then see how it is.
So what you want me to?
What are we doing?
You want me to? I'm
Well,
sorry.
let's see, curb cut. That sounds like one we think might be easy, famous last words.
I mean, HIPAA privacy policy, that's gotta be covered under human resources.
You would hope so.
So,
Here's a question. Tell me what you think of this. I mean, Corey, domestic violence leave, and HIPAA. Do we want to ask John to take a look at these and see if this is duplication of things already in the
On
personnel?
social media too.
yeah, that one should
Yeah.
be too.
Oh yeah, we've already been talking about that one anyways.
I'd like to have the board look at property use.
From 2009? Sure. Can almost drive. So curb cuts, property use.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, ma'am.
The recycled product procurement is like 2 paragraphs long. It's very short.
Sounds good.
Good.
I don't even know that I have copies of all of these.
They're all in a binder, but in that, they're like, here's the policy, and then behind it is like,
All the revisions.
all the older, right, so,
Do you want to start with those 3? Property use, recycled product procurement, and residential and business driveways and curb cuts?
I say we go big or go home. Just throw in the 3, that could potentially overlap with human resources. We may find that,
That's 4.
yeah, we may find that,
To,
the potential HR ones were Corey, domestic violence, HIPAA, and social media, correct?
Corey, domestic violence.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
HIPAA.
So that would be 7. I mean, we can farm those out over a few meetings if we need to.
Yep.
Also want to have a power session.
Would you be able to, scan and send those?
Yeah, of course. So, I mean, staff is already on the hook to come back with, on social media.
Yep.
Yep.
So we're gonna do that. So when we come back with social media, which tentatively I believe is gonna be the next meeting,
Okay.
we would, come back with the other 3 that are potentially HR related. I'll talk to John about that and see if he agrees. And then, we could see how those go and then go to the other ones after that.
Okay. That works for me, if it does
Okay,
for everybody
so
else.
can someone just tell me again, Corey, domestic violence,
domestic-
HIPAA,
And social media.
Yep. and not the other ones?
I think we're trying to do a proof of concept. Is that if I understand what
Yeah.
you're
I
doing?
believe
here?
so, yep.
Yeah, so I think we'll get to all of them eventually. But yeah, okay.
So I guess the question is the proof of concept on the HR ones or the other 3 we mentioned? Either's fine with me.
I heard go big or go home, so I'm listening.
Yeah, well,
That's 7.
I'm gonna go through them and rank them in my own order of importance anyways, and, you know, stress for that, so
Okay,
as we go forward,
I'll
but
try to do that too.
yeah, that's, you know, up to you guys.
Everybody good?
I'll hold that out then.
Awesome, I appreciate it. I think it'll be good to get through a few and see how it goes, and maybe we'll alter course, but let's give it a shot. All right. Moving on to 16, if there aren't any. So 16, this was a request for an update from the Fire Station Building Committee. I apologize, but I know you had a meeting last week, was it?
Week before.
Week before?
Yep. So, I think that, just a little sidebar, I think that because of the building committee updates, I think that they should always be on the agenda. I would like to see the, Council on Aging Building Committee also included on the agenda if we can.
Yes,
Mr. Chair.
excellent point. Completely slipped my mind.
And just a quick update, would be great. So anyways, we met, it was a brief meeting. We reviewed all the, OPM submittals. We had ranked them on our own, on a scale of 1 to 5 based on the RFQ that was, submitted. And we, Ari had ranked them all based on our, it was a 1 to 5, correct? Wasn't it 1 to 5?
Yeah, so 1 to 5 for 6 different categories.
Right, for 6 different categories. So he was able to put that into, you know, a ranking form, and we came up with our top 3. So we were, you know, possibly interviewing the top 2, but depending on how the third ranked with number 2 and number 1, maybe we went to 3. So the committee was unanimous. We would like to interview the top ranked 3, and we're looking at Wednesday, the 21st, I think at this point, trying to schedule that so that we'll interview them on the same evening. And then, you know, the committee will vote to endorse an OPM for the project.
Do you expect the interviews and endorsement to be the same evening, or interviews that follow?
Yet to be determined, I'm not sure yet.
That's fine.
I guess I
Just
have to
curious.
put my thought cap on and see what we did with the police station too. But I did ask the town administrator to include the charge for the fire station building committee in the packet, so that I can put this board on notice that I would like to come back at this point. Because of the discussion where we haven't had a solidified, I guess, location as to where we were going to pursue this new fire station, I thought it would be prudent for this board to establish a procedure as to how we identify that. So one thought was possibly we look to the fire station building committee and adjust the charge to incorporate possibly having, you know, that committee identify with the OPM a recommended location that the committee can vote on. It's just a thought, but I wanted to just put this on notice, you know, the committee on notice that I'd like to come back with that discussion.
Do you need it by the 26th or the next meeting, which I think is the 10th, July 10th?
I guess we could put it on the 26th.
See how the agenda shakes out?
Yeah.
Well, if you wanted to, you've already said you want to have an update on there. So we could,
Correct.
you know, I was envisioning an update. I was envisioning that if we're gonna have a standing update, we'll just have committee updates. A, Fire Station Building Committee, B, Senior Center, you know, feasibility study. And under the Fire Station Building Committee, we could have under that, A1, you know.
Yeah, little bullets or something, just to
charge or
kind of,
whatever,
yeah, keep the
that's fine.
focus on,
That's fine.
because I certainly want to make sure that, you know, I relay pertinent information back to this, you know, to this board of things that happen, and, you know, what that would be a good way to keep the focus, so.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And I thank you for reminding us about putting the COA on as well. I mean, this is the biggest capital project out there. So the
Right.
more we can get information out, I think the better. So people know what they're voting on eventually.
Right, and, you know, and it's, you know, a substantial, like you said, project, you know, financially, but also, you know, with decision-making, and, you know, I don't want to, you know, have this, any questions. I want this information to be out there, so, I think it's pertinent to have it on the agendas as a standing item.
Any thoughts?
Yeah, a couple. So, I did ask Ari how the charge got put on the agenda, and that's not the answer that, what you just said isn't the answer that I got from Ari, so,
I think I stated that I put it on, that I thought it was fine, as I remember.
Right,
But it
so-
reminded me otherwise, so I apologize for that.
well, I don't want anyone taking heat for someone else, I just want to know why the charge was on there, but I'm not, you know, I can kind of, I'll let it go. I'm not, I have reservations about a couple of things, and one of them is definitely why the location is coming up for review. I think that by looking at the location again and not going what we paid a project manager, a feasibility people to, you know, to do for us and what they came up with, I think we're delaying the project, and I'm concerned about that because I don't want to come up against other projects that need to be funded. And, Lorraine, I really think it was you that, you know, kept saying during meetings, during the whole feasibility process, you know, I'm not sure what more you want. We can't use the original location. We know we all can't use it. And we went through, I don't know how many meetings discussing the location and why we couldn't use that location and everything else. And it was your comment that, you know, okay, well, now we're all on the same page. So once we accepted SoCo Tech's feasibility study and suggestions, you said we were all on the same page. So I'm really not sure now why we're going to delay, you know, this very important project by trying to.
Well, I mean, if it would be better, we can have a much broader discussion on that on the agenda next time.
I agree.
mean, this is an update from the committee. I appreciate the update. If there's guidance the committee is asking for.
Right, which is
then-
why I wanted to come back to this board for a discussion at a future date.
Right, but, so let's say we go till the end of, you know, have this discussion. So you're interviewing OPMs. We still don't have a location. Now we are into a minimum of 3 months of having a fire station building committee, and we've barely got one decision made. There's no way we're gonna have time to get a design project in front of the town for a town meeting in the fall.
Right.
So I guess we can try our luck asking folks to vote for both Old Colony and the fire station at the same time, so.
Well, I just think that, you know, to rush a project like this, and I don't think anybody's dragging their feet in any way. We're doing this the right way and doing, you know, having conversations in open session about, you know, the process and updates. I don't know that we'd necessarily be in competition, but, you know, I refuse to, you know, rush you know, any decisions that need to be made. This committee is moving forward. And I think that we're, you know, we're not at a snail's pace. We're definitely moving forward.
So we've received the update. We can certainly talk broader in this in the future with a bigger discussion item. If we want to do that on 26th, we can. If we want to do it on July 10th, we can. Since you are our appointee to the subcommittee, I'll kind of look to you for guidance on what you think that agenda item should be, if you want to have a broader discussion, or if the committee is looking for specific guidance, and go from there.
I mean, honestly, I would think that as the chair of the committee, you would want to be trying to speed things up a little. I think you don't need to have a conversation to know that it's a much more expensive bill to put it anywhere else. That's what we paid, you know, people to figure out for us. So again, I'm not sure what we're trying to figure out when we have everything already in front of us.
Mr. Chairman, would you mind putting that, I'm thinking that the 26th would probably be,
Sure.
you know, for a future discussion.
All right.
So do you think we'll have the name of the OPM by then too, so we can make it a full agenda item?
I guess we'll wait and see.
What does that mean, Maureen?
Well,
we're asking you, you know, you're the chair of the committee,
yes,
so.
I am. And we are going to be interviewing
On the
OPMs, and I'm
23rd, I thought
hoping-
you said the 23rd.
I said the 21st.
Okay. So that
We're
gives you,
targeting the 21st, and hopefully there's not going to be any issues, you know, scheduling on the 21st. That is our target. And it's going to be on the agenda, so hopefully we'll have an answer by the 26th.
not hopefully, you should have an answer by the
Mr. Chairman, do you mind
26th.
moving the
This is
meeting on,
getting
please?
beyond what we've asked for here, and the committee will operate at the committee's pace. If they don't feel comfortable voting, or if they can't get scheduling, then the 21st is not the date.
So as the chair, you're happy, Brian, knowing that it's gonna take them whatever to find an OPM? I mean,
Yes.
okay, all right. Well, then
Absolutely.
if the fire station building project fails eventually because we're not making decisions, then
The committee was put together with expertise to do the right thing for the town. And if the committee decides the right thing for the town is to not make a decision on the 21st, then that is what we have entitled them to do.
okay.
Mr. Chairman, just for purposes of information, I was probably just pointing out that the 21st are interviews.
Yep. That's why I was asking whether we
So the
interview or...
committee could decide on 21st afterwards, yeah, they like this group or they don't, but there's probably gonna be a process of checking references and so on as well. So I'm just.
And that is the discussion that you and I would have to have about how that, you know, that meeting is going to look, so.
But I don't understand why references aren't checked ahead of time. I guess, you know, this is my opportunity to discuss the building committee, you know, the issue with the fire station.
It's not,
So
it'll be
when
the
we-
26th.
Right,
This-
but when
this was
we did
asking for an update.
when we did interviews on town administrator candidates, we voted that day to bring 3 names or whatever it was forward, and, you know, we voted that night to pick a town administrator. I'm not sure, you know, why everything is taking so long. But whatever, it's fine. If you're all happy waiting, then that's fine.
For one of the biggest projects in town, I'm happy to wait and do it right if necessary.
Okay.
Do we have any new business this evening before us? Or any old business?
I do want to bring something up under old business.
Sure.
So I really, and I know you apologized for whatever, but I really think agenda item number 15 was vague. I didn't know how to prepare for it. So I would appreciate a little more information sometimes. We've been talking about doing selectmen's policies for 4 years. I don't know which conversation to reach back for. And like I said, on this fire station building committee thing, you know, talk to the town clerk about posting the charge and everything else. So I think some attention needs to be paid in some of the agenda items and the subsequent packet that goes with it. That's it.
So, since I will respond, June 6th, we received a draft, which you also had questions on items. If number 15 was not clear enough on the 6th, I would have been more than happy to adjust it.
I didn't have a draft. I didn't see the packet.
So you just said number 15 wasn't clear enough, and you had questions on 7 and 15, which we answered 7 and 15.
Right.
If the answer was still not clear enough, we could have continued the conversation on the agenda.
Okay, so when I saw the agenda, all it said was select board policy review discussion. That's all it said.
Correct.
Then when I got my packet, I had all these things listed. I didn't know what we were supposed to be doing with them, if we were supposed to be ranking them in order of, you know, importance or what. And it was the same thing with the fire station building committee update. I was expecting to get an update. I wasn't expecting to have to reread the charge, or I don't want to talk about this because.
Well, you brought it up.
Well, okay, then why is the charge on here? If Lorraine asked for the charge to be put on here to ask us to change the charge for some reason, then that should have been posted on the agenda.
Right, but I didn't.
And there was no request to change the charge, thus it does not say.
But that's what you just said here, right now.
No, I asked that the charge be included so that I could put this board on notice that I would be coming back requesting an agenda item for discussion, looking at the charge.
But you knew that. So why didn't you?
Because I brought it up as an update on that agenda item.
That would be an entirely different item if it was requested, and it was not requested.
Right.
If you knew you were going to ask, then why didn't you just ask for it without posting the charge? We all have the charge. You know, these are.
I don't know that you had the charge. I wanted to make sure that you did have the charge.
I approved the charge.
I didn't.
Okay,
I don't think I
so
had
you
it.
could have gotten the charge.
And I welcomed not having to go look for it.
The point is, when I read the agenda item for number 15, okay?
On the 6th.
On the 6th, it said, oh no, I'm sorry, number 16, Fire Station Building Committee update. That's it.
Yep.
That's it.
And it says the same thing today.
Yet, the packet, which is posted for the public, had a copy of the charge. And I received one phone call from someone saying to me, why do you need the charge? Did it change?
No, didn't change. And there was no request to change it.
Okay, all right, fine.
So I don't know what you're insinuating, but we didn't discuss changing it. There was nothing more than discussion.
I'm
That's why
insinuating
pushing-
that there is background conversation on changing the charge, so.
Well,
Which is what I am bringing up going forward at another meeting.
So you knew that. So why wasn't it posted as such?
Because I wasn't, because I
We could
didn't.
have talked about it tonight and gotten it done. That's my point. My point is, we wait and wait and wait and wait. We could have amended the charge tonight and been done with it.
perhaps we didn't know what that is until the committee has met again. So all my emails public record if you want to search it out.
Well, so's mine. And no one ever mentioned I need to study the charge for today.
And nobody suggested that you needed to study the charge. Leah, you know what, I don't know what your trip is tonight, but,
Lorraine, I'm not on a
let's-
trip,
let's keep
okay?
it civil. Let's
I'm not
keep
on
it
a
civil.
trip. I'm just unhappy because I feel like we've asked and answered all these questions, especially when we were discussing the location during the entire feasibility study. So, you know, I don't know why we're delaying. But it's fine.
Talk about the 26th. All right, if there's no further business, entertain it.
I thought Ari had something for old business.
I'm sorry,
did you have
sir.
something?
I did.
Did you forget what it was?
He's like, I don't know.
So we, the cost and comp study sent everybody an email about giving an update on for transparency purposes. We had a single proposer, was GovHR USA, which is a national firm with good reputation, and proposal was in the budget. So we're going to move forward with that. But my suggestion would be that put together a small steering group, which would include a member of the select board to, it would be an unofficial group, it doesn't require any formal voting, to just kind of coordinate and make sure that they're heading in the right direction on as check-ins happen. My suggestion was to include Leah, given that she's already the board's designee for union negotiations, but of course I'll defer to the board on that. As I mentioned, we're hoping to get this underway. We're gonna get this underway in June so that we can get the contract signed and encumbered, because it is FY23 money that we can carry over once we have a contract. It takes about 4 months, the project altogether.
So 4 months once started.
Yeah.
Okay. So November-ish.
Right.
All All right, that works for me. You interested in participating, Leah?
I'll think about it and I can let Ari know.
Okay. All right. Excellent. If there's no other business, I'll entertain a motion to close the meeting at 8:14 PM.
So moved. Second.
Carboni?
Aye.
Fabian?
Aye.
Day, aye. Have a good night, everybody.